Hi everybody, I'm Dean Gornitis. This is Unleash This Book Reviews, where I talk to you about my latest book reading adventures, give you my thoughts and feelings because I'm an emotionally sensitive person. I think that's true. I wanted to come to you today to talk to you about my final thoughts and feelings on Thomas Pynchon's Bleeding Edge. Now I know in a previous video or two I said I wanted to do this as like a 3 or 4 part series thing, but the more I got into it, the more I thought maybe I won't sap you for that many videos, and kind of just wanted to wrap things up with a whole lot of good thoughts, juicy stuff. So hopefully you've finished. If not, don't start this video yet, go do something else, and otherwise let's get going. So my card of notes. I wanted to say that first off, about halfway through this book and even a little bit later on into it, I started feeling a little of that bored feeling that is just all too common, I guess, in a lot of books where you kind of want to give up sort of halfway through. I slogged through that, and interestingly enough, this is one of those books where after you finish it, it starts to like sink in more and more, and you miss it more and more, and you realize how much of a part of your life it took. And that's happening to me. I look back and I'm appreciating it more with each day that passes, missing it from my life, kind of want to read it again. I've actually been picking it up and browsing through passages again just to kind of go back to that experience. So if you are kind of feeling that sluggish feeling, keep going, because I think this one kind of does pay off a bit. A lot of people kind of like to categorize Pynchon into his normal stuff, I guess, normal being crazy, right, and like his style in a way, like Gravity's Rainbow, really thick, hard, maybe to sludge through for, somebody who's approaching his work for the first time. And then a lot of people like to say there's another type of Pynchon work called Pynchon Light, which is, stuff like Inherent Vice, some people say The Crying Loud of 489, stuff like that, where it's much more accessible. And a lot of people want to put Bleeding Edge into that category. I don't think I personally would, from my experience. I haven't read all of his stuff, but I would much more say, if you're going to rate this on a scale of rare to well done, that this is just Pynchon medium. Right there, smack in the middle. There's plenty of like tangents, like sort of just that spiral away. You're constantly kind of there's much more of a plot line that is distinguishable right as you're reading than say something like Gravity's Rainbow, which I know I realize does have a plot line, but it's much harder to kind of hone in on it than Bleeding Edge, but it still has plenty of that sort of fractal going off into different areas, and kind of, Pynchon seems to be the anti-wrapping things up at the end nice and tight, which is great. It's fun. That's interesting too. It just takes a little time to get acclimated to that. So, if you're looking for a little bit of a challenge, and this is your first Pynchon, I don't think that it's unsurmountable in the way that I would probably tell most people who've never tried his work before to stay away from something like Gravity's Rainbow. That's just me talking, there's a lot of characters to follow, there is, but I kind of let that go with me, and just said I'm not going to worry about that. And if a character does seem important enough that I do want to remember more about them, like where they were back in the book and stuff, there's a really interesting good site out there called PynchonWiki.com. I had to make sure. Check that out for all of his books. I don't know who is really helping to put this all together, but it is extensive, and pretty much any pop reference you want more information about, and specifically characters, if you're trying to recall who they are and stuff, this is a great site. Go to it, PynchonWiki.com, and all of his books are listed there. Go to the Bleeding Edge one. I referenced it plenty when I was looking for more info on the characters. Really appreciate that. They actually have something on the side for Infinite Jest, which I haven't really checked out, but I'm assuming if it's just as good that it's probably a critical thing. Yeah, cool, exciting stuff. I wanted to talk quickly too about how just the cover of this book reflects the book as a whole. It's really fun to just look at, like, if you're, I don't know, slightly in the psychedelic type of stuff, I suppose, because it's really shiny and it changes colors when you reflect it into the light. Really nifty, cool stuff. And the title itself is Bleeding Edge, which is, you know, technology that's right on, you know, it's not cutting edge, it's so sharp that it's bleeding. That's where the, you know, the technology, blah, 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 whatever. And this cover, like, I've never really seen anything like it before, and it really does kind of seem to be on the bleeding edge. Just a little interesting tidbit that I picked up. I wanted to point out that this really isn't the internet book that a lot of people kind of were hoping it was, I guess, before it was released. You know, it seems a lot of people are kind of looking for that quintessential book about the internet that'll kind of, you know, is a game changer or something, and this isn't it. The internet definitely plays a part, but it's not as intense of a part as I think was kind of built up before the book was released. There's much more espionage type spying and like detective work, stuff like that, with the internet playing a somewhat important part, but not a central plot line. Same goes with September 11th. While that date and the incidences that occurred on that date do show up in this book, I don't think it's as plot essential as was maybe advertised. Yeah, lastly, I love doing that on the last note. I wanted to bring up again the fact of how great of a time period piece this is, and just how crazy it is that it was put together, right? And I brought this up in my past video on this book, but I think it just needs to be talked about a little bit more. This takes place, you know, right around the Y2K era, you know, September 11th, as I said. So that's, you know, approximately a decade ago. And the interesting thing about that, as I said before, is that it's really relatively easy to go online or go in books and find information about periods, say 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and kind of reference that to see what happened when and make sure that you're not making any errors in your timeline. But when you look back like 10 years ago, I just feel like that information is a little bit harder to sort through and find definitive answers a lot of times. But this book is loaded with them, and personally speaking, I could have missed out on stuff. I couldn't find any errors. But I mean, for a man who's 76 years old, writing about the technology era and talking about things like Final Fantasy X and so many other things too, that's just a reference that pops into my head right away. It's really intriguing to see a man of that age paying that close attention to sort of the technological era, when we kind of stereotype you know, the senior citizens of our time being completely about technology and stuff. So what I kind of am curious about is how he put this together. He either had to have spent a lot of time researching and cultivating all these like pop, you know, time references, or he started taking notes back then. Like he in 1999 like realized, you know, in 10-15 years I'm going to write something about this time period, and took notes then. Either way, the detail he gives to the time period is just so cool. Really something I appreciate about the book. I definitely recommend it, and if you're not sure if you're into Pynchon or not, I think it's a great place to start personally. You know, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know I struggled with Gravity's Rainbow, and I've tried some of his other stuff that I haven't maybe talked about on videos and stuff, but I feel like I finally got him. I get it now, and I'm kind of interested to read more of his stuff, and yeah, if you're looking to kind of get into him too, I think this is probably a good launch off point. Cool. I'll be back soon with, you know, maybe an announcement of what the next book is going to be that we're going to be reading and talking about and stuff. I hope you guys read along when the next book comes along, kind of hoping to turn this more from a review channel to a book club read along type of discussion and stuff like that. I don't want to be a critic. Critics suck, you know, this sucks, this is good, this is bad. Who cares about that, right? It's about cultivating more from the experience, because reading's a solitary type of thing, and when you can infuse, you know, community or into that, I think that's really cool. Which of course wouldn't happen without you guys, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love you guys so much for you know, giving me this experience that I really can't get anywhere else. So with that said, I'll see you guys soon. Take care of yourselves, and I'm going to stare at you really close in the eye right now. Bye.